Yo, what up? How's it going? And welcome back for another video. Today's video, we are doing TSM versus CG, Game 2 of the final round of the LCS Regional Qualifier. That is a title. If you watched Game 1, I had some technical difficulties. This is my first time streaming while recording at the same time, so messed up a couple things, but shouldn't have any of that in this. But if you want to see Game 1, then I'll leave that in the description below, and should probably maybe have an informational card to click on. But technical difficulties, I just had some text on top of the screen and I forgot to move my camera for the first couple minutes of the game. So it's no big deal. So you can totally watch it. It's totally watchable. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's get right into the draft. Okay, here we are. We're at the draft. And so I still have it in the positions that they were picked because I think it's worth talking about. So we're going to talk about the bans, what each team's able to do, talk about the draft strategy, and then we'll talk about win conditions for each team. So let's just do it. Alrighty. So looking at the bans, so what's the couple things that stick out for Clutch's bans is that they're banning Yuumi. So normally you leave Yuumi open because you'll take it with your first pick. So that's very interesting right there. So they actually ban Yuumi on blue side. You normally first pick that on blue side, and then you have to, if it's open, then you have to ban the Akali with your last ban, is usually what happens with that, if you're going to first pick it. So they more prioritize, what that tells me is that they're hoping that TSM does a standard 3 bans, and then they can actually get the Akali. So it's interesting actually banning Yuumi on blue side. So now TSM knows they never have to ban it because they don't prioritize it very highly. So that's pretty interesting right there. And TSM has to ban the Akali rather than the GP. So their standard bans on blue side have been Rumble, Skarner, and GP to keep the GP from going through. So they have to drop one of them. So they chose to drop the Gangplank. The Gangplank's the interesting of the 3-1 because the Gangplank is a champion that's actually super meta, whereas like Rumble and Skarner are somewhat meta. Like they're good. They're good, but they're only they're still niche kind of picks a little bit. Whereas the Gangplank is probably the best top laner in the game. Either him, Aatrox, or Renekton are honestly like the big 3 for me at least. Renekton is just it's just so good at blind picking. But so that's interesting that that's the one that's dropped. We'll see if that ends up biting them in the end. So there we go. So of course Clutch is going to first pick Gangplank. So they first pick Gangplank because if they don't, TSM's going to pick it, right? And then TSM is put into a good spot where they can pick their Sejuani and their Xayah. So Sejuani's not banned away, so they get their free Sejuani for Spica. And then you get Xayah, which puts Clutch in a position where they need to pick Rakan. And this does a couple interesting things right here. Because they'll pick the Xayah Rakan, so they're prioritizing Cody Sun's pick. Because if they don't pick Xayah right here, it's going to get banned in the second phase, so they want Cody Sun on a hyper carry. Whereas maybe you could give over Xayah Rakan and just take Caitlyn Morgana, for instance, if you wanted to. That could be a counterplay to that, so you don't have to do Xayah Rakan. Xayah Rakan's a decently fighting bottom lane, but it does open the opportunity for you to get countered at the support position, which they kind of do, but it's not like a Leona type of counter. So they take the Rakan to deny the Xayah Rakan combo, and then TSM takes Nautilus right here. So they take Nautilus right here, which is going to, which is like kind of a counter to Rakan. So not as hard as Leona, but if the Rakan is coming straight forward into you, you can actually dredge line him before the knockup from the Rakan, the Grand Entrance, actually hits. I don't think you can auto attack in time, kind of like Leona. You just punch him with your shield and it stops him dead in his tracks. So you can't dredge line him out of his knockup if you're able to hit it in time. So it is kind of a counter, as well as just decent gank setup and all that good stuff. So yeah, so it's like a pseudo counter. Xayah Nautilus is a very good lane. Once you get the Nautilus hook and the stun, it's very easy to chain with Xayah CC. So it's a very kill-oriented lane, and then scales decently in the mid game. So a lot of good stuff. Notably, the thing that's missing right here is that they don't take the Sylas, which is direct counter to the Sejuani, and one of the best champions in the game right now. So you have to think maybe Clutch could have just ended up giving over the Rakan. Here's another way of thinking about this: could have ended up giving over the Rakan and just taking Sylas and the jungler right here. So Sylas and the jungler, so taking like Sylas and Gragas. They could end up taking that. Or they can just take Sylas and that's the jungler, and then they could take... It's hard for them to take support and AD carry right here, because if you pick Caitlyn, then they're going to ban Morgana, right? So if you pick Morgana, they're going to ban Caitlyn. But you could pick Morgana and pick Draven, but Cody Sun's not really much of a Draven player. So there's some interesting things that Clutch can do with their draft right here. I think it's fine, but the Sylas pick is really big at falling this far in the draft. And they prioritize banning Corki and Azir more than Sylas, which is interesting to me. Because if you ban those two champions, you know TSM is going to pick Sylas, and you're never going to get Sylas for yourself. And your composition, if they plan on building it this way, needs an AP jungler in the first place. So wouldn't maybe want to go ahead and pick Sylas here. I would have personally went for picking Sylas and then picking Sylas and maybe your jungler as well, and then Sylas just ends up having to be your mid laner, which is fine. So you're actually showing your solo lanes, but you can counter pick with bottom lane, which I think is fine there. But also what they did right here is fine. So it's just another way of thinking about it. You can take the Sylas away. You can take Sylas Gragas, put Sylas on Damonte, put Gragas on Lira, and then you have really great engage. You take the Sylas away, and you already have really good Sylas ultimates. You already have the the Sejuani and the Nautilus. So would have been interesting to take that instead of the Kaiser Rakan. So that was the only thing I was thinking about whenever I was looking at the draft. Maybe you take that, and you can probably get away with getting Caitlyn Morgana in the second phase, is what I would imagine. If not, maybe you just take Ezreal Tahm Kench. If you don't get Caitlyn Morgana, take Ezreal Tahm Kench. Ezreal Tahm Kench is great into Xayah Rakan. Whether or not you believe it or not, if the Ezreal player is very good at punishing in lane, and they position correctly, all you have to do is not be on top of each other, and that lane is actually really easy to play. Just watch Deft play that lane. Just watch Deft play Ezreal Tahm Kench and the Xayah Rakan. You'll know what I'm talking about. So there was actually more options for Clutch right here. I don't think they had to take this. I think there were some better options, but this is also fine. Okay, and then so the AP jungler of Gragas gets taken out, and they take out J4, which is another champion that we like to play. Clutch ban out these two right here in the hopes that maybe they get Sylas. I think is the idea, is maybe they get Sylas as their jungler. If they get Sylas as their jungler, then they're in a really good spot right here. But it's really telegraphed, so they just take the other AP jungler and take it into a solo lane, right? They just take the Sylas right here, and that pinches Clutch into taking Elise, right? And Elise actually doesn't have very good setup with this comp right here. So Elise is very good whenever you have dive potential in the top lane specifically. But when you pick Gangplank and then TSM is last picking their top laner, you're not in a very good position to ensure that you can have a dive-oriented top side. So they shouldn't be able to do it with this, and you don't know TSM's pick yet. This is a good lane for Gangplank, actually. It's actually a free lane. So you don't know you have good setup for that. You can maybe have... It's also really hard to dive Xayah Nautilus, and Xayah Nautilus shouldn't ever be in dive range unless they make a mistake, or if you've already, pre-ganked their lane. I already prepped it beforehand. Does have decent 2v2 with Irelia in the mid lane. So yeah, but normally you pick Elise to snowball like top lane and lanes that you have a lot of dive potential in, but there's not a whole lot of dive potential, and they really get pinched into taking this pick. And this pick doesn't scale very great into late game, but something that Clutch is very good at utilizing is, looking for those picks and looking for those areas. So Elise is an okay pick for, for Clutch gaming, but doesn't actually fit into this composition very well, in my opinion. And then the last pick, the Irelia. So Irelia has a pretty good matchup into the Sylas, so they know this is a solo lane Sylas because this is already picked right here, and they already have Gangplank, so it's not very likely Sylas is going to lane in the Gangplank in the top lane. So Irelia has a pretty good matchup, and as well as keeps Sylas from getting a good ultimate. The other thing that Elise does is it keeps Sylas from getting a good ultimate. And then last pick with Aatrox. So Aatrox is one of the OP top laners, but I think he's so overrated, actually. And this actually gives you such a free lane for Gangplank. Aatrox is one of the freest lanes for Gangplank. It's so hard to get kill pressure on the Gangplank if he's good at all. You just sit there and farm up, and you poke with Q, and you get to scale freely into the mid-late game with the Gangplank, and getting all those grass procs. So you actually harass in this lane as Gangplank, and it's just kind of a free scaling lane if you play it correctly. Huni's a great Gangplank player, but this is fully picked for scaling into the team fight because TSM has a hard team fight composition. This is really another face roll composition for them with some 1-3-1 options. Okay, cool. So let's talk about what both drafts can actually do. Are the players in the right positions? Yes, we are. Okay, so let's look at Clutch Gaming's composition. So they have a winning top side. They have a winning mid lane, kind of after first back and level 6. This is, a favorable matchup for Irelia. Damonte is a pretty decent Irelia player. You have mostly a neutral bottom side, slight advantage over to TSM's bottom lane. In terms of just the 2v2, and the gank setup is better for Xayah Nautilus with comboing with Sejuani. So stronger bottom side, honestly, for TSM. So strong top side, slightly favorable mid lane, especially at 6, and then also kind of neutral, slightly negative lane state in the bottom side. The only thing difficult for their team is what would be really great is to set up some plays around maybe mid for Lira, and put Huni in a position to where he's able to play super aggressive. So you can maybe split map topside if you wanted to as the Elise. Elise will have no trouble navigating the map around a Sejuani. So if you wanted to, you could split map. If Huni's able to really punish really hard, you could split map around topside and look to play that way. This team spikes really well into actually has decent mid game in terms of like the 2v2 and the 2v2 mid. So Elise can just play top side and mid side. Sylas doesn't have any ults he wants to steal from these two, so the 2v2 at 6 is really beneficial for Clutch. And so you could really just farm like normal, split map top side, allow Gangplank to play aggressive, and then allow Damonte to play aggressive, because you win all of these 2v2s. This 2v2 is more difficult, but if Huni's slamming in the lane already, you've already set him up for success. It's hard for Sejuani and Aatrox to actually capitalize on this. And so far, you haven't seen a lot of Spica and Broken Blade synergizing, kind of like Acadian and Broken Blade in Spring. So you do definitely favor Clutch on this top side. So look for Lira to be setting up their solo laners. And bottom lane, if Lira wants to go bottom lane, then has decent gank setup. But I would probably stick to the plan of getting Huni strong and playing for 2v2s around mid, because you win the 2v2s around mid because Sylas has no good ult targets at all. His ult targets are so bad. Okay, cool. In the late game, fights are a little bit harder with this team. It really comes down to whether Irelia can get good setup, but Irelia can get really great setup if Gangplank gets to drop his true damage ult on top of them at the same times as Irelia ultimate. You have a lot of crazy, weird engage. So you have like the guaranteed engage with Rakan. So if you see a play and you see an angle where the Rakan can go in, you drop the cannon barrage on them, slows all of them down, they get there, and then can have a really explosive burst fight with the Irelia. The Elise doesn't fit much into the team fight other than maybe can play backline duty and peel for the Xayah. Or can just go straight in, and the Xayah can killer instinct into the backline. So this is like a weird dive composition. So you drop the Gangplank ultimate, the Rakan dives forward, the Irelia throws out her flash ult, and then Xayah can jump into the backside once they flash. So it's like a pseudo dive composition where it looks kind of weird. Because you have the Gangplank in it. So it's a weird dive composition. So that's how you want to play out team fight. So this team comp is decent in the mid game, except for if you're going to go the Mermana build, then you want to just have the Mermana stacked out in your Rage Blade. So really 2 items. This team is really online. Gangplank will have his Triforce, other stuff, Triforce, other stuff. So 2 items. This team is really good. Look to play around mid and top in the early game. Okay, TSM's composition. TSM has another patented face roll composition. So they have another face roll composition. So 2v2 around topside is actually beneficial for TSM, except for the Aatrox cannot do much against Gangplank in the 1v1. So, but in the 2v2 has a decent setup. Sejuani has really good setup with Xayah Nautilus. Loses out hard on the 2v2 mid, so they can maybe make 4-man plays bottom, or make rotation plays topside. Sylas can get the lane push in the early laning phase, so before first back actually has lane priority based with his AoE passive. But after 6, Irelia does have kill threat. So in the early game, can can get prio mid, so they can maybe make plays around bottom side, can make rotation plays around top side. But in the mid game, this team is really strong in the mid game. Sylas is great on one item. He doesn't have very good ult targets, except for maybe taking Gangplank's ultimate would be cool. And Rakan's ultimate's okay, but none of these ultimates are very good. Killer Instinct's okay. But none of these ults are very good. You get a lot of damage on Irelia's ult, but you don't get to utilize, the main thing with her ults, which is the passive, right? So this team composition is all about mid to late team fighting. So you just have a really face roll team fight composition. If Clutch want to 1-3-1, you can mostly match in the 1-3-1. Sylas will never be able to 1v1 Irelia in the late game. It's very difficult unless you already have like a great ultimate, but you don't even have any ult targets. So it's very, very, very difficult for Sylas to 1v1 the Irelia. So if Clutch game ended up running a 1-3-1 in the 1-3-1, and maybe the Irelia is huge, if they do that 2v2 in the early game, it's very difficult for Sylas to play against the Irelia. Aatrox eventually does get to a point where he can fight the Gangplank, but if the Gangplank's slamming, it's very difficult. So there is a point in the game where Aatrox is able to fight the Gangplank after like Death Dance, that type of stuff. But sometimes it's so hard to get on Gangplank. So Clutch can win out in the 1-3-1. TSM can somewhat match, but it's very hard to get kill threats. TSM's really about just answering those side lanes. They have the ability to answer the 1-3-1, and they're really just looking for their explosive fights in the mid to late game, and make sure that they don't just get full dove on. So this game will come down a lot to, like most games, what happens in the early game, what team is at an advantageous position. They both have teamfight compositions. Teamfight compositions do very different things. TSM fights really front to back. Clutch wants to dive on top of you. So if one team's at the advantage and they're able to get, in the correct position that they want to be, that team should win the team fights. If Clutch ends up getting behind, then they'll have to come up with like unique ways. Their comp is able to come up with unique ways to get into fights, whereas TSM's composition isn't, well equipped, other than like maybe like an Aatrox flank. You get behind them, you come over a wall, you get a big knock-up, Sejuani comes in. So TSM's comp from ahead is in a really good spot. Clutch comps from ahead in a good spot. TSM's comp from behind is in a tough spot. Clutch's comp from behind is okay. But really, it comes a lot down to the early game, and if the early game goes well for either team, then it gives you an advantageous position in the team fight, because both these comps are set up really well for the team fights. Alrighty, let's get into the game. Okay. Artemis is over there talking shit. Over there just dancing. Yay. Aatrox gives great leashes. Okay. Both junglers starting on opposite sides. I would imagine both are doing Krug's clear, since Lira went to the Krugs. If you don't know, Krug's clear gives you the fastest level 3 and the fastest level 6. It's the only clear that will give you level 3 from 3 camps, I believe. Alright, the lane states are going pretty much as expected. Pretty neutral lane state in mid, winning lane state in top for CG, winning lane state and bottom lane for TSM. Lira actually did Wolves instead. Oh wow, Damonte doesn't have flash. That is very good for TSM. That sets up their whole early game. Oh wow, Oh wow. Okay, let's talk about how that was set up. Let's look at this. Okay, look at bottom lane. So Bjergsen goes in, actually gets a flash out. So it's very difficult to kill on first gank, honestly. So he doesn't have to wait for Spica. It'd be too obvious. So just going in for this aggressive trade. He's straight up winning this in 1v1. And once you see Spica, you have to flash, because you're going to get stunned, and then you'll get chain stunned and you'll die 100%. So you have to flash. Bjergsen has Aftershock, so he's not going to take that much damage from tower. It does look like he's in tower range. And then bottom lane's pushing it in like this. And Nautilus just starts to roam up. The wave is bouncing back, and Zven is just going to back up in the lane. And Nautilus is going to walk through. So this is really tricky right here. So they're making it just look like, so what Spica's doing right here, the reason why Damonte's staying is because it's unlikely you're going to get dove this early in the game, right? And it's just looking like Spica's just helping Bjergsen push out this wave so he can reset. So he can maybe buy like a Doran's ring or something like that, you know, because that's a really popular thing to do. You buy one starting on him, you get a good reset, you buy the second starting on him, you come back and you slam him lane after that. So that's what it looks like they're doing. And since he's staying, you know he doesn't have vision. Bjergsen goes in for another really aggressive trade to chunk him, and this is a free kill. Really well set up. Nice. It does suck that fucking Nautilus got it. And then CG look for a dive up here. This is what you do with Elise. You dive top lane. Surprised that they actually got in position to be able to do this. But as I said before, if the Gangplank player is good, it's so easy to harass Aatrox in this lane. It's a very easy lane for Aatrox. He comes down and then flashes before tower can get aggro. Clean dive. Bjergsen TP's top, and Nautilus actually never started walking back bottom side because Zven actually based. He's going to lose a little bit of XP for this. Zven actually based during that time because he's not going to stay in bottom lane to get killed in the 2v2. Got himself a coal. Even CS point, he's going to be a little bit behind in XP. But Sejuani and Nautilus are already in position. So Bjergsen's right here, and Bjergsen can probably get a kill with just his flash right here. But what they're doing is they're corralling CG into this spot right here. So they don't see Nautilus and Sejuani yet. This TP is kind of interesting because you know Broken Blade has his TP. This is mostly a defensive TP, so he's TPing in, so hopefully they can get out because they think that Spica is going to be over here. But Nautilus still isn't shown either. So this TP is just so Bjergsen doesn't flash on them, is what it is. But Aatrox has his TP as well. But even if it was just the 2v3, they went out on the 2v3, honestly. Boom! And disaster strikes on the rift. Now Damonte is super slammed. Damonte at this current stage in the game is big boom. And as soon as they see the Nautilus, I know they fucked up. But even if Nautilus wasn't there, they still would have died to Aatrox. But tragedy strikes on the rift once again. It's tough if we can't see how that's set up. I would imagine just Lira just ran straight top after the TP was down. We don't get to see that setup because it was on a replay though. Alright. Huge minion wave. Damonte's getting slammed in lane. So Bjergsen got priority to come back to the mid lane. Shoved the mid lane. I mean, Sylas is so good at shoving lane early in game. Walks downside for a 4-man play. If they don't even kill them here, this is super huge no matter what. Bjergsen's not losing that much. So Bjergsen's not even losing that much. They know Lira was just on top side, so they know he can't get down here quicker than Sylas can. So Spica goes in and starts moving here. This is a really great play by TSM. So whether or not this works out into getting a kill, this is denying half a level of XP. It's actually huge no matter what. They end up getting the kills. Look at all that loss, and they get the GP ultimate. They're going to lose a kill here, but then they get one. I don't mind Lira going for that. There's a chance he gets out. Yeah, they deny an entire level of XP, actually. That's insane. So Zven took one for the team just a second ago to let them make that play around mid and top. And then he comes back, and they get him 2 kills. They reward him. So TSM is in such a good spot right now that this game should be so free. This game is so free. Like, TSM is in such a good spot. As I said before, CG's comp does have abilities to get back into the game if they get to the mid game and they're behind. But when you have a lead like this and you have such a face roll composition that TSM has, and you're winning in the early game, and you have a team fight composition, it should be so free, right? I'm saying this knowing that it stalls out. I know that this game stalls out and it's not a clean closeout, but this should be actually such a free game for TSM now. With the lead they have, they just have to keep playing. They just have to play to the strengths of their comp now, and they have such a big lead that this game is so easy. And all those advantages that I said, you know, Clutch have, they don't have anymore. They don't win the mid 2v2 anymore. Even though they're supposed to win it, right? So they don't win the mid 2v2. They still slam topside, so they could try to play through topside and get a big advantage through Huni. Is another way into the game for Clutch. But this game is actually at a game state where you should have control over whatever neutral you want. So they're setting up for full denial again on the bottom lane, which is great. Then they can peel over, take this neutral, and at 10 minutes they can lane swap the top side. And CG shouldn't be able to contest because of the position that TSM is in this early game. You get plates on top side for Zven again. You get Zven super fed. You rotate your bottom lane mid. You push through mid. You get vision control around the next dragon. You take dragon. You get vision control around the top quadrant on the map that you want. You push through. You break some tier 2s because you have such an advantage on the rest of your team. It's set for top lane. Then you have so much Baron threat. You kill them. You take Baron. You win the game. This game's actually so easy. Look at this denial, bro. Oh my gosh. Like, Zven is in such a good spot. And Bjergsen's hardly losing anything for this. He actually is going to lose a minion wave. He does lose a minion wave. And Huni's going to get plates on top side. So they give Huni plates on top side so that they can take plate, so that he can save plates mid. And there also the other thing about that is that with your Aatrox moving over the mid lane, you know your Aatrox has the ability to rotate over the fight. So the call is fine to have him rotate over. It does suck that GP is the pressure point on the map and he's able to get extra gold. But the whole point of that is that you move Broken Blade over to the mid lane so he has the ability to rotate over if there happen to be a fight on the dragon. But it is also very unlikely that there's going to be a fight on the dragon because how far... Oh, I mean, Cody Sun and Vulcan were dead, and even if they were alive, how far behind they are. So TSM should push this out and then lane swap topside, which is exactly what they're doing. So they're walking topside for the Rift Herald. Bjergsen has full control over mid lane. So CG preemptively lane swap just to match. So they preemptively lane swap just to match, which is fine. So, but what TSM can do right now is they just push out topside. They drop to Rift Herald and give the plates to Zven. There we go. Spica, run away. They're gonna share. Interesting. This is just like defensively. All right, Zven has eaten up like 6 plates now. All right, and now they can actually just set up 1-3-1 at the moment, just to collect farm. Right, so they can put Xayah in the mid lane, pressure for tower, get some plates maybe. And next dragon's Infernal, so the RNG gods have smiled upon TSM. Oh, that plate actually died. Unfortunate. When I was watching that live, I was like, man, Damonte could actually kill there, but he doesn't know where they are. He has no vision behind him. Yeah, Bjergsen can clear out topside pretty easy, so they can just force for plates. It's so much more valuable to snowball. Like Cody Sun's getting a little bit gold on the top lane, but it's more valuable just to snowball Zven even harder. Like, it is more valuable what they're doing. Like, even though they're giving some plates over to Xayah, it's more valuable what they're doing. Snowballing advantages. More important than just keeping your opponent from getting advantages. IMO. Not even IMO. That's like categorically correct. Boom. GP's getting big though. Did a good back timing. So Zven's backing right now, so he just cashed in his coal, so he can buy a big item and be strong for this Infernal Drake. So it's a very good back timing. He keeps his Cole because he has nothing to buy. You know, Cole still gives you life on hit, so. Now they just want to shove up mid. Huni's already based. So they're going to shove bottom side and then walk over to the Drake. And there's almost, I mean, if CG comes to contest right now, unless they just get a miracle fight, they have no business fighting here. Clutch is in such a bad spot. They're in such a bad spot right now. The only person powerful on their team is Huni. And it's really not a face roll champion. You're just got like not really like a 1v9 champion. I mean, the champion's crazy, but not really a 1v9 champion. It's not like you have an Irelia that's like super far ahead. It's just gonna run all over the game. You do have an Irelia. He's honestly at a decent spot, all that considering. I mean, he's just been playing PvE all game. Alright, now we're in a little bit of lull state. Oh, that was weird. Nice. This is... Tragedy strikes on the Rift once again for CG. They're going to be able to take 2 towers right now. They're going to be able to take mid tower. Maybe not. Yeah, so CG's rotating on him, but they take a tier 2. Take a tier 2 top side. That's so good. They're going to lose a tier 2 bottom side, but it doesn't matter that much because Clutch doesn't have any business being on TSM side of the map anyways at this stage in the game. So it doesn't matter that much. Tier 2 top is very, very, very important because once TSM gets Baron, they win this game, right? It doesn't matter that they lost this. Obviously, this gives an easier way in for Clutch on the next Dragon. But it is so hard for Clutch to even fight for this next Dragon. I mean, TSM could just push up the mid lane, get river control right here if they want to. And as long as they get, you know, objective setup that they should be able to get with the power of their team, it is so hard for Clutch to even get in. So it's great that GP got this gold, but it doesn't mean that much in terms of the game. So when you're in the lead like this, it's fine to trade like that. And when you're in the deficit, you want to be able to trade like this. So it's good for both teams, honestly. But the team that's snowballing, like, it's fine to trade like that. You get the side of the map that you want, and CG's never going to get on your side. So this structure doesn't mean anything except for gold right now. It doesn't give you any more power on the map. You're still not going to be able to fight for this Drake. If you do, you probably lose the game even harder. I mean, you're already in a losing game state, so you have to find something, right? They're hunting him down. Yep. Get another kill. That's fine for TSM to go up there because there's nothing on the map, so that's just gold. Damonte doesn't lose anything off of that except for his life because there's nothing up. TSM still have their mid structure. They're still in such a good spot. This Drake is going to spawn in 15 seconds. They already have the push on mid. Irelia's top. She has TP, but they have full vision control over this except for the scuttle. So they know that they're doing this, but they have no way in. There's no TPs. They could just try to ult steal is all they got going for them. Double Infernal, even in a better spot. Now they can just move their vision control that they have around bottom side right here. They just move a top side. They just move a top side, push in top and mid, push into this quadrant, get full vision control with your whole team. They can look for pickoffs over here with their vision superiority, right? They get the kills, they peel over the Baron, and then they end the game. Such an easy closeout. Oh, they're actually going to just look for the Baron because they have full vision denial already. Nice. Okay. They don't even have to do it the classic way. They had full vision denial already. So they just get vision denial and they just take it. All right, cool. So now you can get in a 1-3-1 setup if you want to. You can get into a 4 bot side, 1 mid, or reverse that. As I said before, bottom inhibitor is super important on first Baron because that kind of guarantees you can, if you're in the lead, it guarantees you're going to get next Baron. Or we should have so much more options. So it looks like they're going to do 0-4-1. Oh, they see the Irelia, so they're going to pick her off. Okay, you'd have to imagine this game is over. But I know it's not. I'm pretty sure TSM fumbles this. Oh yeah, they're having a lot of... Remember, they don't crash the lanes correctly. Okay, no, okay, everything's going great. Where does this go wrong? What am I thinking about? Where does this go wrong? Wow, they got top inhibitor. This is great. That's not even the one they need. But they got it. Oh, Broken Blade gets picked. They only have a minute 30 left. Oh, it's this fight. I remember now. What happens in this fight? Well, that wasn't that bad. Only thing bad is that this isn't the inhibitor they want. It's weird that they prioritized getting this one. It's because they already had the tier 2 is why they went there. But it seems like they could have just did 4 bottom, 1 mid. And forced bottom inhibitor. Or 4 bottom, 1 top if they want maximum split. It seems like just the 4 should have been on bottom side. The idea is that they already had tier 2, but it seems like if they had 4 bottom, it seems like there would be no way for Clutch to get in. Definitely top inhibitor is the least valuable of the 3 because it's the same side as Baron. It does at least guarantee you get next Infernal, so maybe that's a thought process, but it seems like you should already get the Infernal anyways. I think that's the wrong play. I think it's just safe to say that was the wrong play. They should have just put 4 bottom, 1 top, or 4 bottom, 1 mid, pushed through bottom, rotated the members mid, taken mid. It seems like they went top and then realized they should go bottom, so they just ran straight bottom rather than going mid. It seems like after they took top, they could have just gone mid instead. They didn't have vision through here. They do now, but... Alright, TSM's still in a great spot, man. It seems like they could have got way more off of that Baron, but it's fine. Still in a good spot. Triple Infernal. I mean, how often do you see a team lose with Triple Infernal? It has to probably be like 1% of the time. So far, not the cleanest closeout. Making some decisions that aren't the best ones. Some kind of okay decisions, but not the ones that you'd want to make, right? And you're just denying yourself XP topside when you really don't need to. So when you take this top inhibitor, it guarantees that you're able to push in like this for free. But it's so much more valuable to force them to answer bottom side so that whenever Baron spawns, you can do the Baron dance as long as you want. That's the power of having bot inhibitor. You can do the Baron dance as long as you want. If the enemy team wants to dance with you, then they lose their entire base. If they commit to saving their base, then you either wipe them in a team fight, or you take the Baron and win. Okay, ask yourselves, why are we fighting here? Why is TSM in the quadrant of the map that they don't have vision control on? They have full vision denial on this entire side of the map. The side that has Baron. Only plus is that they have supers pushing in this side, so if they're able to peel back off this fight and make it stall, then okay. But you're in the side of the map that you don't have vision denial. Just ask yourself, why are you here? Why are you here if you're TSM? Why are you here? How does this play help you win the game? Sure, if you wipe them, you win the game. We could just take Baron and win the game that way. And you have much better fight setup over here. So ask yourself, why are we here? Why are we still here? Just to suffer? And guess who can walk to the Baron? Maybe. Did they run straight for it? Let's see. Just ask yourself, why are we here? Why are we here? Just to suffer. Okay, it doesn't end up being Baron because they had the supers pushing in top. But it definitely was Baron for TSM if you didn't do that, you know? They're in such a position that they're still in such a great spot that they have full vision denial around the objective, that this should be free. Okay, Bjergsen thinks Irelia ultimate misses. Now imagine if you would have just taken this 5 minutes ago, or 3 minutes ago, whenever they had supers pushing into their top side. Okay, they do have a mini wave they have to answer. That's why TSM's recommitting. Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Big yikes. Big yikes. This series does not look good for either team, by the way. And now you give over a Baron. Yay. Big yikes. Big yikes, brothers. Oh, that nut. I laughed so hard when I saw that live. Okay, I mean, look. All right, so CG is now equalizing on the map state. Irelia is now on 3 items. TSM still do have 3 Infernal Drakes, so they honestly still have like a 10k gold advantage. So TSM is still in a great spot. CG have a lot of gold on the map to get, so this Baron is super valuable. So if they get a lot of gold on this, they can somewhat equalize. But the way that this game goes, actually the stronger TSM becomes. Their team composition is easier to play out, scales better, and they have 3 Infernals. So it is difficult. It is still difficult for CG to win this game, even though they're making all the right moves. It is still really hard for them to win this game. Their siege isn't that great. They don't outscale. They only win fights when TSM gives them to them. So it's still such a hard game for CG to win. CG win if they snowball and not give over 3 Infernals. I mean, they just lost so hard in the early game. Even though all these great plays they're making in the late game, I mean, it's not even great plays. It's just like, why is TSM doing the things that they do? Why do they like to hurt themselves? So CG answer with a whole lot of gold. They're actually in a gold advantage, but it's really not an advantage because of the 3 Infernals and just the team compositions. I mean, CG's team composition is fine. Like, if there wasn't 3 Infernals on the map, CG would be in a good spot as well. Like, it'd be a pretty neutral game state. The composition is fine. Like, as long as the ults get in the right place, they can win those like chaotic fights with Irelia GP ults in the Rakan. This game is all about TSM's mistakes, though. Like, the early game was played out so well, and it's really all about TSM's mistakes. It's really sad because when you watch the first portion of the game, you see like how good TSM can be, right? You see how good they can be. You see how they actually rotate around the map correctly, how they actually play weak side correctly, how they actually like they did all the right things in the early game. It was almost a perfect early game. Winning the mind games, everything about it. But now Clutch is just pushing in on this top quadrant. They're putting Gangplank topside because he's just a menace. And they're getting control of this top quadrant right here. It's exactly what they need to do. And CG, when they're in a position that they're ahead, they have so much ability to make picks. If they get the only way CG wins a team fight now, one, if TSM just gives it to them like they've been the last couple of fights, or if they get a pick off in the jungle. So the way they're setting up is really great. They do catch CG on a back timing. So now TSM, they have pink wards in their inventory, at least 2 members do. And their sweepers are up. You can push in and do vision denial right here. The only problem is that CG could be sitting in a bush. That would be a great play by CG right now, is if they just made a Fnatic brush. Honestly, it's something that they can do right now. But just basically backing on back timers, you give this quadrant of the jungle back to TSM. But TSM, if they catch TSM on a back timing, they can just do the same thing, set up their Fnatic brush. See, TSM can't back right now. If they back right now, they give over vision control. But they may just have to give over vision control anyways. But it's so risky to give over control of this quadrant right now because they can set up a Fnatic brush, right? CG should just be setting up in this quadrant. They should push in this top side, set up here. peel back over to the Drake, or to the Baron. Like peel back over to here and look for a pick off and like a chaotic fight. They actually do get Zven's Phantom Dancer. I was trying to hover over to see the name of the item, but it doesn't work like that. Alright, they have full vision denial now. It's completely dark for TSM, except for that one spot in the Raptor Pit. Okay. Now if you're Clutch Gaming, ask yourselves, why are you running at them in the mid lane? Why is this what you're doing? Where's the advantages of your team composition? Alright, this is the turning point in this fight. Also, like, this isn't where you win your team fights, these face roll team fights. You want to, with the Infernal stacked up, the team compositions, you want to be getting picks in the jungle. You should be playing around this quadrant of the jungle, this top quadrant, if you're CG. Ask yourselves, why are you looking for this fight? And then Cody Sun really jumps the gun in this fight and makes it a split fight where Zven is able to just free hit this entire time, where Cody Sun's feeling threatened by Broken Blade the entire time. So you see Vulcan and Lira jump over here to help Cody Sun so he doesn't get face rolled by Broken Blade. On the flip side, Zven is just over here. Did a whole ton of damage to GP. GP's down. GP's your whole team. You're separated again. You've taken down Smoothie and Broken Blade, but Huni is worth so much right now. And now Damonte's in a tricky spot, and all the ults are down on these champions. In an even fight state, just fighting in the middle of nowhere, you're always going to favor Xayah, Sej, and Sylas, and this should be the end of the game, right? We just have the lone minion heading in for the end. This is the end of the game, fellas. It's the end of the game. Look at Big Daddy Bjerg. Look at him. Look at Huni. He's like, fuck, bro. We almost took that game. All right. So not a very good game by either teams. Such a good early game by TSM. Like almost played to perfection. You can only imagine how good this team could be. You can only imagine how good this team could be if they only knew how to close out games with their team. Like there's a lot of points where you just ask yourself, why are we here? Why are we doing this? That fight bottom side. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Gotta ask those questions. This game should have been so free. And then when Clutch get back into the game, gotta ask yourself, we have supers mid, Baron is up, we have full vision denial on the Baron and the top quadrant on the map. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? So not a good look for either team in the later stages of the game. And a very good look for TSM in the first game. And obviously this is the last game that TSM wins. Clutch win the next 3. But yeah, that was pretty rough. Pretty rough. Okay, let's just do the next game. So we're going to record the next game. This one's getting close to 50 minutes, so I'm going to stop recording this one. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.